and thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of What's Happening Now with Laura. So, Usha, you know, sometimes when you're getting older, you get a little adult brain and you start to double book things. Yet again, yes, I know, this is the second time this year I've double booked. I'd like to say a hearty hello to the folks down in Soufrière, the Miss Curves with Confidence ladies. I know you were supposed to be here with me this evening, but yes, again, I am double booked. And so you aren't able to be here, but here's to hoping that you have a fantastic pageant on the 11th of May, and we'll talk a little bit, I'll talk to you a little bit about that later on in the show. The 11th of May, a precursor to Mother's Day, the annual Miss Curves with Confidence pageant put on by the Alexander Family Foundation and Events will be happening in Soufrière at Kubaril Estate. So that would be happening, and that's going to be awesome. I'll give you a little bit more information about that later on in the show. But my sincerest apologies to all of you who expected to see the ladies. I think it's the Fabulous Five who are going to be vying for the Miss Curves with Confidence title 2019. My deepest and sincerest apologies. But for those of you who are listening and watching, please head down there to Soufrière on the 11th of May, which is on Saturday, to be a part of this wonderful spectacle, because it's going to be a blast. It usually is, and this year is going to be no less, no doubt. Whew, having gotten that out of the way for a minute, let me just turn our attention to what has gone viral this last few days. I am certain most of you, if not all of you, would have heard about the alleged kidnapping of 5 of our locals by a Chinese expat, I think I would say, for want of a better word. Okay, so there was an alleged kidnapping of 5 locals by a Chinese expat, and the rounds are going on, and how come, boy, that could happen in St. Lucia, and how foreigners keep coming into our country and treating us like dirt, like we are second-class citizens. And no doubt many of you would have recalled the various times and numerous occasions where expats have spat upon St. Lucians, have accused the St. Lucians erroneously, and nothing untoward has happened. You get a simple apology, and that is it, and we go about our merry way until it happens again, and then the furor comes up again, and how come we are being treated like second-class citizens in our own country? No lawyer has ever come up and said, pro bono, I'm going to represent the aggrieved, at least not to my knowledge, and if I am wrong, I stand corrected, and I expect when the lines are open, that person will call and correct me on that point. However, there was this video going viral, and apparently there were five St. Lucian workers from the ubiquitous contractor, let's put it as that. And I personally, I don't know about you, but I personally thought that was something that had happened recently, only to find out that that video was made 3 months ago in February. What? You heard me right. This was a video, allegedly, which was taped 3 months ago in February. So why are we now hearing about it? Your guess is as good as mine. Why haven't these 5 aggrieved St. Lucians come out and spoken to mainstream media? Your guess is as good as mine. Why is the person who made the video the person that we're hearing narrating? And unless my hearing is faulty, we would know who that person is who is recording the video. Why is it that person who is recording? Your guess is as good as mine. Considering, if it is the person that I'm thinking of, considering that person was a talk show host and is well known to the media and has access to the media, you would have thought that this video would have been viral and it would have been a talking point for weeks on end and building in momentum. Why wasn't that done? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know. But more importantly, some names have been attached to this whole fiasco. First of all, in the video, I think it was suggested, or I can't remember too correctly now if it's in the video or if it's part of the commentary that accompanied the video, but it is suggested that the residence or the compound or the premises that the 5 St. Lucians were kidnapped or held against their wishes was a Chinese embassy. Last I checked, we do not have diplomatic ties with China. And so why would we have an embassy in St. Lucia? That was the first thing that crossed my mind. So my thinking is it's not an embassy, but perhaps it is property owned by Chinese expats or the Chinese government. Yes. So we're suggesting that this is property owned by the Chinese government because we know we do not have an embassy in St. Lucia. We don't have a Chinese embassy in St. Lucia because, of course, St. Lucia does not have diplomatic ties with mainland China. That is one. Secondly, some names have come to, it has been brought to my attention that there is litigation going on and that the Chinese expat at the center of this whole fiasco is being represented, and I say allegedly represented, by a former prime minister who is also a constitutional lawyer. So it begs the question, if you're a constitutional lawyer and let's just say you had 5 children and your 5 children were held against their will at some random stranger's house, what would you do as a constitutional lawyer? Do you think that is not impinging on their civil rights to be held against their will? To have been invited into the premises to do whatever contractual work and be refused exit when the time comes? How would you feel if those were your children, Mr. Constitutional Lawyer? And I'm saying allegedly, huh? So we're saying allegedly because we don't have proof that that is so. That a former prime minister who's also a constitutional lawyer is representing the Chinese expat in this case, in this whole fiasco. Also, it has been brought to my attention that, and that's allegedly, a certain loudmouth lawyer tried to extort monies out of the Chinese community to make the whole video go away. Now, why would that be so? Why is it would you have access to media? Why is it that you would purport to care about St. Lucian, everything St. Lucian, and when the time came when you had information that could elevate St. Lucians and to empower St. Lucians and to make St. Lucians feel better about themselves and to make them feel like first-class citizens in their own country, you would sit on the video and not do anything about it? Why would that be? Why would anybody in their right mind, and why is it that we haven't heard anything from the employer whose employees were held against their will? Is it that this video is a farce? I hope not. I hope it isn't a farce because it means that there would be machinations afoot. It would mean that there is certain collusion. It would mean that certain persons are colluding to what? Extort? To blackmail? To make St. Lucians look stupid? What exactly? What exactly? I personally am outraged because if what we saw in the video is true, if what the employees, those 5 men, are saying is true and that they were held against their will, something needs to be done about this. Our government needs to stand up for its citizens and get to the bottom of this. And if there's any St. Lucian, I know the law says that everybody deserves representation. But hello, when politicians who are lawyers, who want to one day resume reins of this country, who say that they are for the Mali way, and who claim that St. Lucians hold the vast real estate of their heart, when you do nothing to ease the plight of St. Lucians, but silence them, something is wrong. And the rest of us need to sit up and take serious note. There's a lot going on that just does not add up. It does not add up. If a video was made in February, and I hope somebody comes out and say, no, this video was not made in February, this is a recent incident. I hope somebody comes out and say that, because for a video to be sitting in somebody's archive since February, and nobody has come out to take ownership, and nobody has said, I'm sorry for holding these 5 men against their will, something is wrong. Something is seriously wrong, and something stinks in the state of Denmark, or in this case, St. Lucia, really, really badly. And we have to ask ourselves a question. And you know, today I was having a conversation with some gentlemen, and I was saying to them, you know, I have absolutely no problem with anybody having any political affiliations. Everybody has a right to affiliate with any political party that they want to. If you want to be yellow as a banana, go for it. If you want to be red as blood, go for it. If you want to be as neutral as the state of the country of Switzerland, go for it. If you want to be green, orange, blue, whatever the color is you want to be, go for it. You want to start your own political party, go for it. But please stand for something. You may stand, or you may agree with certain ideology when it comes to politics. But for goodness sake, right is right and wrong is wrong. Do not fall for everything simply because you favor red or you favor yellow. Open your eyes and make up your own minds. What if these were your husbands, your brothers, your sons, your children, who were held in captive for 5 hours? Now, for me, I'm always asking for the most peaceful solution to everything. I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in unnecessary force. But I don't think I would be held in captivity for more than 5 seconds if I had that monster truck at my disposal. The least of the worries of this Chinese man would have been his driveway, because I would have bulldozed my way out. Nobody's holding me captive when I have the means of exiting myself from anybody's premises. You want to hold me captive? You want to kidnap me? Then kidnap this, because I have equipment that could bulldoze your entire house, much less a gate. A driveway would be the least of your worries. There are ways to handle things. And if you think that I have destroyed your driveway, I have a boss. I have persons who I am accountable to, who are responsible for me. You pick up your phone, the same way you know how to pick up your phone to contract them to come and get a job done. You pick up your phone and you say to them, your 5 workers have damaged my driveway. Please come see the damage. I need it fixed before they leave. I am certain that the job that they came to do did not take 5 seconds. So you would have noticed that the driveway was damaged, and you should have called the office and said to them, your guys just came to do a job and they damaged my driveway. Please send somebody in to assess the damage. But you do not hold on to 5 men for 5 hours, or 3 men for 5 hours, whatever number. 1 is too many. That is just ridiculous. That is just pure ridiculousness. But I'm certain we'll be hearing more about this story as the days go by and as the story unfolds, as the mystery unfolds. Now, tonight I was sent a video of a robbery that took, and let me tell you, wow, that CCTV unit was extremely good. The video was fantastic. The picture on this was not pixelated at all. It was very good. And if anybody knows the idiot who came to rob that Chinese place without covering his face before he entered, please, si pani situes, pani vole, please go to the police and tell them who the person is. Because people's lives were at stake. Guns were being brandished and knives were being flourished. So please, if you know who the perpetrator is, please let the police know so that they can apprehend the culprit. But you know, it has gotten to a point in St. Lucia where these things don't perturb us too much. I mean, we've had 11 murders. This is like, what, 3 a month so far for the year. Disturbing. But what it was even more disturbing for me, and the video is here, just watch, keep your eyes on the gentleman who is now making an order. Just keep your eyes and follow him, and don't take your eyes off his exit where he's running away. Oh, it's slightly off camera. It's slightly off camera. But what you cannot see is this man ran away, as rightly he should. But if you notice, when he came into the store, he came into the store with a child. And he runs away when the bandit comes in, brandishing his gun, cocking it and everything, and he runs to the back, but he never picks up his son. He never picks up his son. And off camera, to the side, you can see when the child follows him minutes later. That is sad and appalling. You came in with a child, whether it is your biological child, your stepchild, your little nephew, your whatever this child is to you. You came in with this child as an adult. You are responsible for him. So you leave him to fend for himself against a thug who has a knife and an idiot with a gun, and you're the adult. That is the most egregious thing that happened in that video right there. The rest is pure stupidness. You come into rob a place and your face is exposed, and then you want to put on a... No, be a man about it, because you've already come in without your face being covered. Be a man about it. But the man who came in with the child and slinked out to the back and left that poor defenseless child, sad. Very sad. We're due for a break. When we come back, my guest this evening. Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned to what's happening now with Laura. Again, I want to apologize to the people down in Soufriere for not having your fabulous 5 with me this evening. Shout out to Miss Curves with Confidence. We'll talk a little bit later about the Curves with Confidence pageant. I think it's something that is very needed in St. Lucia and very important. A lot of the times, pageantry focuses on the slimmest of us and the sexiest of us and the more traditional signs of beauty, but we fail to remember that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, and confidence. And that's the thing I love about this pageant. It celebrates confidence with all of your curves and all of its forms and it's all of its glory. So this is something that we should not miss. So I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to carry Miss Curves with Confidence this year. But, you know, some things cannot be avoided. With me this evening, I have the PRO and president of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association. And this is a show that has been delayed and deferred and deferred and been delayed time and time again. And this is why, you know, they're here with us today. As you would have known over the past few weeks, the SLMDA has gone through a drastic change, out with the old, in with the new. It's girl power who rules the world, girls, you know, and I think 98 or 99% of the SLMDA is made up of females. With me this evening is Dr. Merle Clark, the president, and Dr. Monique Morplazy, who is the PRO. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does it feel?
There's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of work. Well, you're not a stranger to studio. You're not a stranger to St. Lucians. You with your, you know, outspokenness. You've been the subject of media scrutiny in the past, and I dare say you will be under even more scrutiny, microscopic scrutiny this time around with your new title of president of the SLMDA. And the SLMDA has gone through some real upheaval the past few months. Been very, very vocal, and some would say very political. But before we go into that, because you have taken the brunt of a lot of things, every appointment that you get, for some reason, seems to be politically motivated, and the slurs that are hurled towards you. I think nobody deserves or needs that, but you motor on. So we'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. But let's focus a little bit now on Dr. Moplezi. Hi.
Hi.
You're a fresh space and a breath of fresh air. I would say, like somebody would say, somebody once you would say, easy on the eye. And you're the PRO.
Yes.
Yeah. Now those are some big shoes to fill.
Oh, very big shoes. My lovely Madam President used to be the old PRO.
Yes, yes.
But our aim this year is to really re-envision how the SLMDA is seen, because as you were saying, it was being seen as very political. But that's not our aim. Our true aim is to get out there and get to the public to improve healthcare as much as we can. Part of the way we improve healthcare is by improving our own working conditions, which is why our past president was so adamant about getting in these hospitals and improving their working conditions. But it's by improving our working conditions that we can better take care of the general public.
Right,
Right.
The doctors and the nurses and the healthcare professionals are taken care of, then you are in a better position to take care of the patients and everybody else that come across. Before we get into the business and the running of the SLMDA, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let the public know who Dr. Moplezi is, what kind of doctor she is, and your green hair.
Yes. Okay, this is just me. I'm out there. I don't think appearances say who you are as a person, and I know I have a baby face. Trust me, I'm very experienced. I'm currently a family practitioner working at Rodney Bay Medical. That's alongside Dr. Tanya Destang Bopra, and I'm very happy where I am. Before working there, I worked at Tapia Hospital in the emergency room, as well as at Victoria Hospital in the anesthesia department and ICU. So when I say I'm very experienced,
yes, I would say so. I mean, when you said working in emergency, I'm thinking trauma, I'm thinking blood. And this is one of the reasons I never went into the medical field at all, because I can't stand the sight of blood. And we're talking about emergency. How was that? How was that experience? And how long did you do that?
I did that for a year. So emergency, you don't know what's going to come through the door. Admittedly, at Tapio, I didn't see much of the trauma aspect, but you really don't know what's coming. I mean, I would see a child. I would see somebody, in their 70s having a heart attack. I would see somebody with a stroke. I would see, kidney disease. I would see something simple like a cold. You never know what's going to happen.
And anything can happen in emergency. What has your experience been? And I know you said you worked with Tapio, and you worked at Victoria. Now, Victoria comes with its own brand of issues. I mean, working at a private hospital is one thing, but when you're working in a public hospital, that's been under heavy artillery for as long as Victoria has been. How was that experience working in the public sector?
Working in the public sector, let me tell you, Victoria does some miracles working under those circumstances. And I want to big up my nurses especially. It is International Nurses Week, and my nurses work very hard. I don't think there's any doctor or dentist who can say that their nurses aren't like their right hand. We need our nurses, and I just want to big up all my nurses, all of them.
Right. Nurses, and I'm glad you mentioned nurses. I have quite a few friends of mine who are nurses, and thank God. Because, it's like Mer would tell you, anything pain in my back, Dr. Merle, I think my kidneys are failing, and it's the same thing with my nursing friends. I would call them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm spiking a fever or whatever. And most of my nursing friends are not in St. Lucia, mind you. So they're like, oh my God, like what is wrong with you? Yeah, I swear I'm becoming a regular hypochondriac. But nurses are quite important, and nurses have really come under fire. And I think nurses work under some tremendously trying circumstances.
They really do, especially in the public sector, because they are understaffed, they are overworked, they have a high, patient workload. These nurses are tremendous people. And
I think I'd like to lend my voice that again. It's a happy Nurses Week to all our nurses, and we certainly plan this week to pay homage to them as the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association. As Dr. Moplesi said, we cannot work without nurses. They literally are our right hand and half of our left hand as well. So without them, nothing happens. So, and as she again alluded to, the trying conditions under which they work, there is nobody, be it public or private or anybody, who doesn't agree that Victoria Hospital, I think, is bursting at the seams. And we've gone past the time when we really need to move. But I think something we want to focus on is that we can't only be talking about infrastructure, that there are also changes that have to be made to how we sometimes relate to patients, because I heard a new complaint that at Victoria Hospital's ER, they're only young doctors. There's nothing wrong with this. Look at her. Look at the experience and look at the baby face. So I think we always find something to complain about, and perhaps it's very telling. It's just this morning we were at a women's forum put on by the TUF. Very invigorating. Some wonderful speakers was Dr. Virginia Alba, Dr. Gail Rigobert, Tessa Mangal, and there was the PRO of the National Youth Council. But I mean, just very exciting young lady she is, very impressive. And again, the same themes came up, that we as women don't necessarily support each other. And when we think of nurses, the large majority of our nurses are women, and without them we cannot function. The hospital cannot function. But the idea that just because you're young, because that came up this morning again, that you're not capable, it simply falls. And we need to do away with that. And in St. Lucia, there certainly seems to be that notion that somebody who is young or fresh-faced is incompetent. And that is wrong.
I'm finding it very difficult to reconcile that, because I think we have been complaining for far too long that we have all these old doctors that need to go retire, and you know, that maybe they're archaic, they're you know, they've gone past their time. We need some fresh faces. We need some new doctors who have freshly trained, who are on the cutting edge of technology and medical advances, and we're hearing that.
Yes, and it's very sad, because again, I've always said, I cannot deal with people who complain, and find no solutions. Let's find the solutions. We cannot leave everything up to governments. I mean, we're a nation, we're intelligent people, and again, it came up this morning. We boast of 2 Nobel laureates, but what was the phrase that Dr. Rigobert used? But we tend to be afraid of excellence. That's how she put it. It was a lot more eloquent the way she put it, but
I remember
it
the
is
exact
true.
wording, but she was like, we are afraid to excel. We are afraid of that, breaking that barrier and going higher.
Or if somebody excels, we tend to be suspicious of them, and we don't necessarily like it. And we need to do away with that. So they've been young, and it's not completely true. Let's start from there. Yes, they're young doctors, but they're supervised, because they're consultants also in the emergency room, but they're young, competent doctors. And it's just very sad that we find something to complain about with everything, because the staff complement in the emergency room has increased at Victoria Hospital. But there's no getting away from the fact that we've outgrown Victoria Hospital, and we do need to move. We do need to move. Right. There are other issues there, mind you, because OKU has fewer beds than VH.
Right. Now, I want us to touch on that in a little.
It does have a bigger emergency room.
It does have a much bigger emergency.
So, okay, so what does that how does that translate? We have fewer beds, but we have a bigger emergency. Does that mean that we have less persons going to be staying over, or can we treat more patients and send them off?
Right. So what this means is those people who just need to, say, be monitored for 12 hours, they just need a bit of fluids, and you reassess them, they can stay in the emergency room. We don't have to send them to the ward.
Which is what happens at VH.
That's what happens at VH. So you have all these people who only stay in for a day or 2 days, and they're putting extra pressure on the ward.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so you have fewer beds, but you have a larger emergency that can accommodate a lot more, and that can ease up the pressure on should ease up the pressure elsewhere.
And also, Monique, I don't know if
and also there's a larger day surgery unit, so they're going to try to increase the number of day surgery. So day surgery, you come in the morning, you leave in the evening, provided there are no complications. Of course.
Oh, like what was supposed to have happened for me when I had my wisdom teeth removed. I had my wisdom teeth removed, all of them at once, and I was supposed to come in the morning and leave in the afternoon. And my cousins who had done it before said, oh yeah, man, you know, you go in the morning, you leave it by afternoon, evening, you're eating steak and potatoes. So I'm like, hey, I want steak and potatoes. When I'm done, 3 days later, I'm still in the hospital. I had an adverse reaction to so anything that could go wrong where I'm concerned is wrong, and which is why it compounds my fear of hospitals and doctors. But that's for another show. So you talked about the nurses, and we talked about that vast majority of nurses are female. Yes. But your the SLMD, the hierarchy, the executive. Yes. I had a little senior moment here. The executive is 99% female. Let's introduce your association, your executive, and then we'll talk about. I will talk a little bit more about them. That's it. Yeah.
Here we go.
Right, so this was your brand spanking. Well, not so brand spanking new anymore.
Yeah, I'm now.
Yeah. But you have one Lone Ranger in there. We have Dr. Suraj as the representative for the men.
Yes.
In there. So tell us a little bit about your executive. What's the makeup? What departments do they come from?
Piero? You're a talker.
Okay, so our president, as we all know, is a nephrologist working both in public and private sector. Dr. Suraj is along the same veins. He works in public and private sector. He's an ENT surgeon.
He's only private now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Suraj. Well, we understand. Dr. Lisa Charles is a consultant in the emergency room at Victoria Hospital, and she also spearheads our CPR training and BLS training.
BLS.
Basic Life Support.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is something that we'll talk a bit about later. Yes. So that's Dr. Marissa Jacob Leon. She's a pathologist, forensic pathologist. She's not under Ministry of Health, actually.
So she's what Dr. King?
No, she's a forensic.
So tell us a little bit we'll talk a little bit about that later. Or
we could talk a little bit about it later. But forensic more or less deals mostly with, in essence, Dr. King did it because Dr. King was the only person. I believe Dr. King is a general pathologist. I believe Marissa deals with a lot of course, the accidents, the homicides, that kind of thing. Your forensic pathology, your forensic pathologist.
So it's like a subspecialty of pathology.
Okay, so she's the one to say, okay, how that person died, and was it a homicide versus natural causes or whatever.
Exactly.
So other pathologists do that as well, but certainly she deals more with suspicious cases.
Yes, that's a homicide happened. What who done it? Who done it? Kind of a doctor.
So she's being caught a lot more than the average pathologist in a sense.
Yes. Okay.
So what else do we have?
We also have Dr. Louis Fernand.
So she's in anesthesia right now.
Yes, she recently completed her internship. She is working in the anesthesia department, ICU. She's our assistant secretary.
Is she at VH?
She's at VH. She's working under one of our other consultants on board. The specialist consultant is Dr. Tamara Sumi Spencer. So she's a consultant anesthesiologist and one of my mentors. I must say I enjoyed working under her.
She worked in anesthesia.
I worked in anesthesia and ICU.
And so she's the consultant's representative on the executive
board. That's right. And Dr. Janoma Gifford is our junior doctor's representative. And let me tell you, this young lady is a firehouse. She's at Clemson, but she was very vocal, and she had to be on this executive. She
Absolutely.
wanted to make some fresh changes.
Now, here's the thing I like about so far. You have a junior doctor's representative, and most times executives just lump persons. Okay, so you're the president, the vice president, but you actually have somebody because and it's yes. As an experienced doctor, your issues are going to be different from a junior doctor,
Absolutely.
and so you can't really speak with any authority for the junior doctors if you're not versed or you don't have an appreciation for what the junior
what they
doctors
go
go
through,
through.
yes.
Now, persons may want to say that, well, you guys were once junior doctors, so you
Yes.
could speak to that, but your issues then may have been different to what's
Different from-
happening now.
absolutely.
So as the years go by, you get different
Different
changes
issues,
coming.
yeah.
Right.
For example, as a consultant, I don't have to sleep in the hospital. So the conditions of the sleeping quarters, I won't be thinking about it necessarily. For a junior doctor, it is a huge issue because these are people who are spending 24 and 48 hours in the hospital without necessarily going home. So it is important that we have adequate conditions for them. And that kind of thing, certainly we have to lobby for as a trade union representing doctors. So Dr. Janine
Jean
W. McIntyre,
is our dentist representative.
she's Dominican. So, you know, the whole OACS, whole CARICOM coming together.
And it doesn't really matter what your nationality is.
Not at
You
all.
working here in St. Lucia,
Absolutely. She's
so you're
very personal
representing,
executive
yeah. So
and
that's
very
awesome.
enthusiastic. And just completing that circle of girl power, because the music too that we realized was this girl is on
Yes,
fire.
yes, yes,
You got
yes,
that.
yes,
Girl is
yes,
catching
yes.
on thing. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, there's Dr. Suraj in there. Hi, Dr. Suraj. Everybody has a girl, so it's our girl power song for this. We're very excited about it. We're very excited about it.
Obviously, it comes through.
Absolutely, and because the question, the time has come certainly not only for women to stand up and have a louder voice and not again came up this morning the
know.
the syndrome.
more
Yes, we need to speak, and with the younger ones, certainly the impact, the role that they have to play, because we as a St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association, we have a very important role to play in not only promoting healthcare, ensuring the well-being of our members, but helping shape policy. And that is extremely important. And it is important, again, that we get the point of view of the younger members. It can't just be the same old people all the time making decisions, making important decisions that will impact the life of everybody, literally the life of everybody else. So we're very excited about the fact that we have very young, very enthusiastic female members on the executive. And there's a lot of work to do, but we are up to the task.
Now, Mo, we have an elephant in the room, and I want us to address it. Every time you speak out in public, every time you get an appointment, something comes up. And for me, it really bothers me. Because you're a professional, but you're also a human being. You're a St. Lucian, you're a Caribbean woman, and you enjoy some of the things that we take for granted, such as carnival. You enjoy a carnival. We have Dr. Moplezi here with us with her green hair, loving it, loving it.
Fabulous.
Yes, and she's a doctor.
Yes.
I don't think it. And you do any of your patients mind when they come to you and
Honestly,
do they ask
no.
you, do
All
you
my
know what you're
patients
talking
have
about?
come in and they're like, wow, I love your hair. It's fresh.
Yes,
It looks
it's
great.
And especially for your younger patients, I would well imagine that
Yes,
they
and it
feel
helps.
they can relate.
They love it. They feel like, okay, she can understand me. She knows what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So Dr. Merle, now, for me, for you, it's a little bit different because you jump carnival.
Absolutely.
You participate in the revelry. And for some reason, that makes you less of a doctor.
Supposedly. I mean, I started jumping carnival, I swear, I went to my first adult fete in 2014. So late in life.
When I was retiring.
Especially
I remember this.
at the age of 54. And this was my second year jumping. And again, I jumped with Legends Carnival Band. And I love Legends. The reason I love Legends Carnival Band, in part, is, again, females. I'm very supportive of young entrepreneurs, and particularly young female entrepreneurs. So the directors of Legends are Jenna Ann Gaston, what's in McNamara, Zenaida McNamara, Mondi Lewis. And these girls work hard. So that in part, in terms of when you choose a carnival band, because as I said, this is my second year jumping, I opted for Legends. It's a small-ish, intimate band, and I like it. But with this picture that you see on screen, Those pictures made the rounds around social media, and let's start from the fact that I posted them. So they were used in a sense to try to shame me, but I'm like, if I posted them, obviously I wasn't ashamed of the picture, so that was odd to me. But there's two issues that came up. So last year, there was a debate when, unfortunately, we lost one of our dialysis patients. And I mean, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Whenever we lose one of our patients, I mean, the entire renal fraternity hurts because we're a family. When it comes to dialysis, it's not like every other specialty, perhaps, where you may see a patient once and never see the patient again. With dialysis, you're seeing those patients generally 3 times a week, and everybody knows everybody's name. We are like family. And one of our patients passed, but the truth is what we do have to realize is that we're dealing with a very high morbid mortality group, a group with very high morbidity and mortality, particularly if you're diabetic, if you're hypertensive. So that, in part, is why we want to focus so much on prevention. Because I think we are being naive if we think we're ever going to be able to treat, if we continue along our current path, all the patients who require dialysis. It is simply too expensive. But there was the loss of the patient, and then, of course, that made news because I am sure everybody in Solution knows that the dialysis unit is housed at the Owen King EU Hospital, and we've been there since January of 2018. And why anybody would think it wasn't a good move, I don't know. There is the debate, there are different debates. There's a debate that we need to move the hospital because VH, we've outlived VH, is bursting at the seams. That is absolutely true. But our old units, the building was mold infested, it has moss, it has everything that everybody
So in other
else,
words,
yes.
to operate in that unit would be to put those high risk,
Absolutely.
high morbidity
right.
rate and all of that
Absolutely.
at more risk.
At more risk,
risk,
because
yes.
mind you, whereas there's a room, a doctor's room at the old unit where we would do procedures in the past, for almost a year or two, I'd stopped doing procedures. The medical directors will attest to the fact that they have multiple emails from me saying we cannot continue to be here. Not just that, with our old unit, we were functioning on the average day with 8 machines. When we woke up every day, the guarantee was that maybe 8 of them were going to work because those machines were way past
How
their
many
time.
machines did you have?
There are 11 machines total.
And
The
out of
guarant-
11, only
it will
8.
guaranteed to work. So maybe on Tuesday, 9 will work. Maybe on Wednesday, 11 may work, but it was never guaranteed. Those machines had significant problems. So the emails were going out. The pictures were being sent of the moss and the mold in the room. So when the move happened, because I'm accused of being so flubbo that I influenced the move of the dialysis unit, I take that, yes, I influenced the move of the dialysis unit because we needed to move.
But not because you're a political
Not at all.
hack.
We spoke to the medical directors of the hospital, and those certainly are the people who make the decision, who speak with.
And so to say
to
that
the ministry.
your influence was because you were a supporter of
Absolutely
of the United Workers Party would mean therefore that the directors and everybody else above
Yes.
you who acquiesced to your request
Yes.
are also agents
I
of the
guess
United
so.
Workers Party.
I guess so. It's completely ludicrous. It's a question. You are there to take care of the patients and also yourself, because we have to be in the environment, the nurses have to be in the environment. So when the move happened, we all were very happy.
But wait a minute, let's put a pin right there. So we're talking about the mold and all the infestation and everything. Aren't other government departments being moved
Absolutely.
almost on a monthly basis because of
Absolutely.
mold, and they're not medical
Absolutely.
patients?
Absolutely.
They're patients whose immune system is not compromised in any way.
That's a perfect
So why is it that it is okay to remove workers who are able-bodied, because we don't want them to get sick and we don't want the productivity to drop from mold-infested buildings, but it's not okay to remove patients who are more
I
at
don't know.
risk of infection?
I don't know the answer to that question. My answer to that question is simply that we needed to move, and we are in a much better place. So the other argument that arose is, can a dialysis unit operate independently? I've never worked at a unit which has been inside a hospital. 90% of dialysis units operate independently, in that they are outside the body of the main hospital. And that's because the dialysis unit, you're prepared inside. You have your doctors, you have your nurses, so you're prepared to deal with emergencies. Because the other argument again became, had there been an emergency room nearby, that the patient would have survived. We
A few
cannot
months
say
after that patient died, another patient died at another doctor's
Yes.
office that was not in a hospital.
Yes.
So could the argument still hold that if that patient was being treated or seen by a doctor within the ambit of a hospital, that patient would not have died? Can we use that argument?
If the it came to the same thing in a sense, because bottom line, you're trained to deal with emergencies. A patient goes into cardiopulmonary arrest, you train to deal with that, and then the patient may need to move generally to the intensive care unit. Because if a patient, no matter which ward in the hospital, be it dialysis, be it the acute medical unit, be it the surgical unit, if a patient goes into arrest, the heart stops beating, or the patient stops breathing, once you resuscitate that patient, which again, as Monique will talk about a bit later, Dr. Moplezi, our aim is, along with Dr. Lisa Charles, who really is leading the charge in that regard, the Heart, Blood and Lung Association, and also in collaboration with RISE, in teaching the average solution, CPR. What do you do if somebody collapses? The more advanced things, certainly, the average solution would not be able to do, but the basics, which actually are even more important in terms of saving somebody's life, we want to get that out to every solution. And I think that is part of our mandate as a new executive, part of what we certainly want to do for our outreach.
Do we have any other dialysis units, other clinics in St. Lucia outside of what existed at VH and what exists now at the OKEU hospital?
There is a private unit which is opening up in Sans Souci. There was one which lasted for a while in town on, I don't know streets very well in town, but yes, there was a small unit in that area which operated outside of a hospital.
And that was independent of the hospital, and it was sanctioned, it was accredited to operate.
Because what you need to know is that you have somebody that if something were to happen, on the rare occasion that something happens, there's an emergency, that there's equipment, that there's medication, and that there are people to deal with it. And then, if needs be, then you transfer the patient.
Okay, now Dr. Kwak, I'm going to stick a little, and you know me with kidney patients and kidney health, so I'm going to stick on that tack for a little bit. Yeah. It has been brought to my attention that there are dialysis machines that are not operationalized right now as we speak.
That is true. There are, so we've been promised a new unit, and again, we've been fighting for that. I think as long as I've been here, I've been speaking of the waiting list, because at the end of the day, you have to face the patient. The policymakers do not have to face patients. You have to face the 20-year-old and say, you need dialysis, but we cannot provide it. You're the one who goes home and gets depressed and has to cry. So I have made it my mission, in a sense, to ensure that dialysis is provided, or kidney transplants, which is the other route we want to go more and more, is provided for the patients who need it. In as much as I've said, I don't think we could sustain it if we continue without promoting prevention heavily, very, very heavily. We do need to focus on that, and we plan to do that as well. But we have advocated for that and agitated for that. So I have been told, I haven't seen them, but it is true from very reliable sources that there are 8 new machines, and we've been promised a new unit which was supposed to open on March 31st.
But that is in addition to those that were there prior that you have, that are currently. So those that were sitting there before that were not operationalized, those are the ones that those have been operationalized, and these 8 units are additional units. Okay, let's put a pin in there. We have to go for break, but when we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more on your mission as the new executive of the SLMDA. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Solution. Thank you for staying tuned to what's happening now with Laura. With me are Doctors Merle Clark and Doctors Monique Moplezi, President and PRO of the newly minted SLMDA Girl Power Association, and I just tagged that. I just tagged that on. So before we left, we were talking about kidney health care and you know what we need to do, and some of the fallacies that have been purported throughout the media and in various forums about why the kidney clinic should not have been external from the hospital. We've debunked that and explained why.
And it's easy to see online everywhere.
And by the way, these ladies are on call, right? So during the break, they were dealing with their patients. So they're here, but they're still dealing with patients. And kudos to you guys, because I couldn't be a doctor. No. I mean, in the days when I did not sleep and I did not feel the effects of not sleeping, maybe, but now I still don't sleep as much as I should be sleeping, but no. When I need to sleep, I need to sleep. I don't want nobody calling me and telling me, patient. No. Nothing like that. Yeah.
But it's to help people. Right?
There you go.
Yes.
And
And kudos to you, and I applaud you guys, because this is a vocation, and this is not for everybody. This is a dedication. This is a commitment to not just yourselves, because a lot of people think, oh, you're a doctor, you're making money.
Yes.
Well, you need to be making money because you don't really have a life of your own, which is why I say all the more power to you. If you can get to burn off some steam and jump Carnival, go for it. Because a lot of us sit at home and we're watching people on TV and we're like, and we're not brave enough like me to go jump anything, much less.
It was on my bucket list. I said I'd do it for years and years and years, and then I finally did it. And
Yeah.
I'm happy, and I'm doing it again this
I
year.
applaud you.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I get the impression that because you're the president of the, now the president of the SLMDA, they should be behind you and should not be doing this. But we have another footage, a picture of another president. I'm not sure if he's still the president, but was at one point the president of the St. Lucia Bar Association, and jumps Carnival. And he's a guy. And I don't think anybody has ever said you ought not to be jumping Carnival because you are the president of the Bar, the Bar
There's absolutely
Association.
nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, but yes, I mean, remember this guy JJ who was head of WASCO at one point?
Yes.
He jumped for years, and
Yes.
yeah, and if Carnival came around one year, and he wasn't in his bikini show thing, it wasn't Carnival.
Yes.
So I don't see why we have
Nothing
one
wrong with
standard
it.
for
It's
guys
nothing
and
wrong.
another
It's
standard
our
for women.
culture.
Yeah,
I see nothing wrong with putting on a carnival costume and jumping down the road.
And
I've
very
done it
tastefully
before.
done too.
Yes. It's our
Very
cultural
tastefully done.
festival.
Exactly. I mean, our Minister of Education used to, I don't know if she still does, but she used to jump Carnival.
Yeah.
And no biggie. I mean, it's
Yes,
the one
Trevor Twirl, I saw on the road.
it's the one time when people of all walks of life can come together as one, and there's no, oh, you're a doctor, you're,
No.
there's
Those
everybody,
are
no stushness, yes.
It's
I was
just
just
good
saying
vibes.
stush in the bush or something like that. Yeah, so we don't have any of that. But we you know, time is against us, and we're going to open the lines anytime from now. Tell us a little bit about what your outreach is. What are your plans for the SLMDA as we go forward?
Right. So what we recognize is a lot of our current issues are chronic issues. So we're looking at how we prevent
We
those
have a
issues.
call. I didn't want us to take calls right now, but let's deal with this call, and then we'll go back to Dr. Bopalese. Good evening. You're on the air. Thank you for calling.
Good night, Laura,
Good night.
and good night to the doctors. Good night,
Good
Dr.
night.
Clark.
Hi.
This is Dr. Gasper speaking, but
Hello?
I'm not
Okay, we're losing.
a medical doctor.
We're losing the caller. It's in and out. So if you can hear us, we can't hear you.
Yeah, are you hearing me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying that I'm Dr. Gasper speaking.
Dr. Gaspar.
Yeah, but I don't have
We're
a...
losing. We're losing. We can. Huh?
Oh, feed the ball.
Oh, feed
Yeah.
the paw. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Gaspar. But
Yeah, yeah, I'm just telling Dr. Clark that that she must not take that tablet they call the Mumu tablets. You know, stay far from that.
stay far from the Mumu tablet.
Yeah, stay from the Mumu
She don't
tablet.
know that one. Yeah, she's been prescribed that one before, I think, but it doesn't work, so she just forget about that one.
And I want to ask Dr. Clark, is she satisfied with the health care of the state? If the answer is yes, why? And if the answer is no, why? And what she intends to do it as far as her organization, you know, will look to try and champion the cause. So if she's satisfied, yes. No, why?
Okay,
Thank you very much. I'll listen of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And myself or Maureen can answer that, really.
Yes.
I think we'd be naive to pretend that all is perfect at all. We're far from being perfect as it pertains to healthcare. And that's not a uniquely solution problem. That's a global problem. Look at the U.S. and Obamacare and all the problems they have in terms of healthcare. We agree certainly that NCDs, as Dr. Moplesi was going to say before the call, are a huge problem. And we do need to focus on that, and we do need to focus on prevention. Again, there was the huge debate, and again, that's why our past president was so vocal in terms of the move. What is going on with St. Jude? What is going on with Oenking EU? Why can't we move? Why is dialysis, well, right now it's not only dialysis, The outpatients clinic is over there.
And physiotherapy.
Physiotherapy is also
So there's
over
a
there.
gradual move.
The
It's a
pharmacy,
gradual.
yeah, the pharmacy has also moved as of Monday. The pharmacy has been operating. So there is a gradual move. Can I sit here and tell you definitively when patients, there has been a plan to move patients in March. That's what we were told. That did not happen, obviously, because we knew when that is going to happen. I don't know. We hope it will be soon that the definitive move happens to the new hospital. We are meeting with the ministry officials on Thursday. It will be our first meeting because the SLMD has a quarterly meeting with the ministry. And certainly we have those questions. What is going on with those hospitals? But once we do move to the hospitals, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of preventing disease, in terms of are we doing the best that we can for patients, in terms of continuing training, being on the cutting edge, knowing what's the latest, what best can we do for our patients, because at the end of the day, that is why we're here, to save lives, to help save lives. So in as much as infrastructure is extremely important, we cannot be focused only on infrastructure in 2019. So we're far from where we need to be. We're far from where we need to be, and certainly as part of our mandate, we do plan to take that on.
Right. So before we took on our first caller, you were telling us a little bit about the plans for the SLMD moving forward.
Yes, so our biggest plan is to improve our outreach, to get out there to the general public, to let them know we are here to help you. So part of that is we want to teach more about healthy lifestyles, how we can prevent those non-communicable diseases, the NCDs like Dr. Clark was saying. So this is the diabetes and the high blood pressure. We know it's diet and lifestyle related. So if we can teach, say, from primary schools, what are the right things to do, how your plate should look, how many times should you be exercising a week. If we start from that young age, then we can prevent a lot of these diseases down in the future. We also want to do a CPR course to the general public, like Dr. Charles was starting to do. We want to continue. Has started, yes. I should say that. Because honestly, if you can start CPR within the first 5 minutes of somebody going down, they have an 80% chance of surviving. And any layperson can start CPR.
But they just need to know the right. Because
they just need to know the right technique.
The basics, and I think I would just be the second person if somebody needs CPR in a room where I am. I'd be the next person who needs CPR. Because I don't know what to, I don't know the first thing.
And that's exactly what. So if we go out and we start training from school children, from businesses, if you know it and you recognize it, trust me, the skills take over.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dr. Clark can attest to that. We do this time and time again. You literally have it ingrained into you, so you know what to do.
So have you started on rolling that program where you teaching the CPR, I think at the school level?
Right.
Yeah.
So right now the SLMD is just coming on board. It was rolled out by the St. Lucia Heart, Blood and Lung Association, led Dr. Charles, and also RISE, that's with Dr. King and Dr. Bird. So they've been collaborating in that regard. So they've done, I think, 2 schools so far, but the plan really is to roll it out around island-wide. And of course, it's a resource issue, it's a human resource issue, it's a manpower issue, because obviously you would need people going out to teach it, teach trainers who could then teach. So that is going to be a bit of a challenge, but we are committed to it. Of course, we have full-time jobs, but we recognize the importance of it, because at the end of the day, it really could be anybody. It could be a relative, it could be anybody who collapses in town, and you've heard it. We live in a society now where gunshot wounds and stab wounds, and we know what a gunshot sounds like. And most people would have seen somebody coming in. Of course, she worked in an emergency room before. I work in a hospital. I've been working since 2007. You've seen many of those, but the average St. Lucian at some point may see it. We need people to know what you do then that may save the person's life, and which does not include taking a camera, a phone, and taking a pic and recording. Exactly. So
and that's the other thing, because a lot of the times, a lot of the trauma that we see are bloody.
Yes.
What do you do in a situation like that? Like I said before, and I'll say again, I'll be the next person needing CPR because I can't stand the sight of blood.
Right.
But what do you do? Because I see people standing there taking I could tell you, I would not put my hand in the blood.
Okay.
Because for one thing, I'm afraid of the blood. So, and for two, you need to be careful because there are so many
my first caveat is make sure the scene is safe.
Yes.
Do not go and rush to somebody if there's still somebody wielding a knife around the place. Because if you go and get hurt, you cannot help the person that's already been hurt. So firstly, make sure the scene is safe. if somebody is actively bleeding, do not be afraid to put pressure on it, because pressure stops bleeding.
Yeah, and that could save a life.
That can save a life.
Because we get a little cut and we
Yes.
apply the pressure. So we do
Right.
that from home. You know, the little things. So it's
So-
just magnified. But how do you not put yourself at risk when there's blood?
You see, again, you're talking about, because there's something called let's say hypothetically, I think what some people may be afraid of, oh, if this person has HIV, or if this person has some other disease that I could get by coming into contact with their blood. The risk really is minimal. And it's not just that. If you get into contact with the blood, say you had happened to have a cut and the blood got in or into your eye, if it's blood gushing out of an artery, there is something called pre-prophylaxis or post-exposure prophylaxis, where you're given medication if perchance this person did have some disease, and that certainly could prevent you from getting it. But the risk starting with, and that is something also we need to be talking about. So that is what we mean by outreach, because most people do not know that. So
And
the
it's
risk
very
is
low
minimal,
risk.
very
Because
low
I
risk.
think I would like to think that the reason why a lot more people do not assist and they stand around and take pictures is because they have
They
these
think
fears.
fear, yeah.
Because you just don't know.
Yes.
And I didn't know that.
And it's a reasonable fear if you don't
is.
know. It really is a reasonable fear, but
It's crippling.
there is
It's
no,
not just a reasonable fear. It's a crippling
Yeah.
fear because it prevents you from rendering aid
To
to somebody
somebody
who
may need it.
yes,
Whose life you
whose
could be
life you could be
saving.
saving.
Yes.
We'll open the lines right now. The number to call is 451-9788, and you can send us your WhatsApp messages on 284-6536. You can also send us your email messages at laurajapier@gmail.com. In the interest of time, we ask that you ask your question and get off the line so that somebody else can call and that the doctors can respond to your question, to your query, and keep the questions to one per caller. Okay? So that again, the number to call is 451-9788. The WhatsApp platform is 284-6536, and the email address to send your messages to is laurajapier@gmail.com. So okay, so we talked about unrolling this outreach program at the school, and I'm excited about this because I wish I was in school because I want to know CPR.
We'll do
and I wanna
business
know-
places as well. We get into everybody.
Yes,
everybody.
now
We
that's
get to
the other
everybody,
thing because
yes.
I'm not at school.
Right.
But I worked a place where I knew nothing with regard to fire safety or CPR. I didn't even know if we had an emergency plan or anything like that. So
There's been St. Lucia laissez-faire like that, and you know what? We'll deal with it when it comes.
Right.
But we need to move away from that. It's 2019. We need to be prepared. You're a girl guide? You're a girl guide?
I wasn't a girl guide, unfortunately. But I do agree with them. Be prepared.
Yes,
So
you got
whenever
to be.
you go to a new place, you should figure it out for yourself. What if something happens? What if there's a fire? Do we have a fire extinguisher? Is there a clear exit place? What are my emergency numbers? Can I get to a no
because I think a
simple
lot of
things.
times we focus on the job interview and getting that
Yes,
job.
absolutely.
But then once we get that job, we never think to ask, what is the emergency plan? Because the life you may be saving is your own, could be your
Absolutely.
own. Because if you don't know where to go and what to do, if there is a fire, if there is a bandit who's coming and shooting up the place.
Look
if
what
you
happened
don't-
in the video. You saw in the beginning.
Exactly. I mean, the young lady, it's clear. She went down, but she
Yes.
went back up. She didn't know what
didn't know
was
what
the
to
plan.
do.
She didn't know. The father who came in with the kid, he ran away, and I'm certain, I would love to think that every parent, their primary focus is on their child.
Yeah.
But then you're so traumatized, you forgetting your child. Like, what happens? So I would like to see that this whole plan trickles down, not just to the schools, but and I
general
think it's important.
safety.
Yeah, because they're going to be our next set of
Absolutely.
workforce, but the workforce currently, and the life, like I said, you save might be your own.
Yeah, because if your other colleagues that would know what to do if something were to happen, then like you said, you could be saving your own life. And speaking of just what happened, again, crime. We would be naive again to say that we don't have a problem with crime. So we are thinking mentorship. And it's not just with SLMDA. We need to do this in collaboration with other associations. Start mentoring our youth. I think we have failed out. Well, we have failed out. You're millennial. But I mean, they are at the point that they could be mentoring as well. And I mean, these are the things. So Monique with her green hair, she may be more able to reach certain people than I perhaps would with my type 1 plat. So these are things that we want to do. Be mentors, speak, get out there. We're not this, the
Yes.
people have this idea of doctors, oh, they're just so social, they're making a whole lot of money, and they really don't care about people, they just want your money. And that is far from the truth. That is far from the truth. Firstly, I think if it's a question of you going into a particular career just to make money, medicine in this day and age really is not that career. Just the sheer amount of time it takes to get there, your colleagues have started working and starting their families and all of that 5 years before you finish school. So talking about making money as being your prime motivation for going into medicine is no, it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. So
You spend your whole life helping other people in medicine, honestly.
essentially, yeah.
What are some of the other plans that the SLMDA have in store?
Okay.
So one of our other plans, we all know worldwide the big thing is cannabis. So that is one of the things we would like to bring about and educate people on. So the good, the bad, and the ugly behind cannabis.
I like the way she put it. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
I think there's a lot of misconception about cannabis. I think
Yes.
just this evening before we came in, we were listening to a song, and I said, that's a song, and then I realized, yeah, it is a song. It's kind of telling you a little bit about cannabis and telling you the THS or whatever, you know, THC, that there you go, just tells you, you know, what do I know? This what it could do to you, and that what it could do to you, and there's a whole lot of education that needs to be going on with regard to cannabis. And I think a lot of times, like we mentioned, with the fear of blood, and we don't know if the person has a disease and can we go in safely and whatever, there's a lot of misconception, and that could create a lot of fear in people. We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, hello. You're on the air.
Yes, good evening. It's a very interesting program. I'd like to congratulate the new team.
Thank
One
you.
of the things I'd like to see happening eventually, because I think they just got in, is the whole issue of COPD in St. Lucia.
Yes, that is a huge
You're
issue.
right.
You're right.
At VH as a medical social worker there. And, excuse me, COPD is really on the rise with our young persons,
Yes.
particularly our men, and we are really losing our men in St. Lucia. So I do believe that it's not only the Medical and Dental Association that should tackle it, but like the doctor said, is working with other associations. I think it's really important. So we are really losing the workforce.
Yes, you're very
Particularly
right.
the men from 29, 30-year-olds are passing because of COPD, and it's really, really serious. I would really like the whole country to take it serious and everybody put their hands on board. That's my contribution.
Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you
And
for that
is so important. I
contribution.
love what you
Yes.
said about
Yes.
especially the young
Thank
men,
you.
and then that we're losing productivity, because it is depressing. I have picked up a habit now that I go through the obituaries, and especially the televised ones, and the number of young men that I
Yes.
see, 40 and
Yes.
30, and I'm asking myself, why? We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hey, good evening, Laura. Nice show tonight.
Thank you.
Just a question for the doctor. Can she tell me exactly
Which one?
whether she, well, the president,
The president.
of the, do you know what is going on at St. Jude's presently? Because normally when we have development in the country, you have a sign saying what you're doing, you know, how it affects the community, blah, blah, blah. But you, and I know you have a meeting coming up, but I don't want to hear you tell me as you'll discuss it. Right now, do you know what is happening at St. Jude's Hospital, the old site?
Currently, I do not
Thank you,
know.
caller.
But as I said, literally what you're saying you don't want to hear is we are going to find out on Thursday. Because literally that is the question at the top of our list. What is going on with St. Jude? What is going on with OKU? These are our priority questions. There are other issues, of course, but we are going to find out. And as I said, we sort of a liaison between the I think generally in St. Lucia, we don't speak to people enough. I believe in talking to people, talking to the population. We're intelligent people, we understand. And we don't do that necessarily enough, and we plan to help. The ministry needs us to hold their hand in that regard to get the information out to the general public. We will do that, but we plan to find that out definitively what is going on Thursday when we meet with the ministry official.
Thank you. We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hi, Laura. Sorry, I know you don't accept other calls, but from the same person. But I had a follow-up. I wanted to ask. I know also from my little tea papi avocat thing.
Sorry. Repeat that. I missed what you said.
I'm saying that I think I'm suggesting that it's supposed to be the reverse. She said that she's going to be meeting with the ministers or the ministry, but normally the association, the doctors and stuff like that, supposed to influence that type of process and not just it coming down from government ministers or not really the type of technocrats who would tell you what what do you want in a healthcare system. So I'm hoping that going forward, they can tell the government ministers, you know what, when you're going forward with something like that, consult us before, not after you've started that process, because they're the ones who are supposed to influence the process of, hey, where do we want this? Where do we want the outpatient ward? Where what processes, because they're the ones who went to school. They're the ones who are educated. They're the ones who have been interns at different hospitals around the world. So they can influence that process. I don't think Guy Joseph or Alan Chastanet or any of them.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. And this is exactly what I did not want, because I could hear the caller. He's been very, very combative, and as he's speaking, he's riling himself a little bit more. And that's exactly what I think the caller wants you to be more combative, like your predecessors. What do you say about that?
There are different ways to do things. As I said, I've never been necessarily the most combative, overtly combative person, but I get results. I think I get results. So we hopefully should have a new dialysis unit. I think we're getting, in terms of funds, into prevention of kidney disease. Of course, we want for everything. But there are different ways to do things. And I agree with him in that sometimes things are done in reverse, and it's just the nature of the beast, in a sense, in St. Lucia, that those who are on the front lines, those who are in the trenches, aren't necessarily consulted when it comes to those major decisions. But that's why we think it's important that we guide the policymakers in
My question to you is, this is a process that has already, that preceded you.
Absolutely.
So you're coming in, and I think the caller wanted to be a little bit more combative, and I could feel that this the way he was writing himself up. But do you necessarily think that that's the way to go? Because there is a situation that exists on the ground. Now you're going in there to find out
what's going on, and then
I think a lot of the problems with us in St. Lucia is that we want to just rush in. The very same things that we say we're not appreciative of the other side is what we do. We want to just come in without the facts, without the information, without a clear plan on how to attack a certain situation, and just go in with like a bull in a china shop. And I think that's not necessarily the right way. I think what you're doing is the right thing. You go in, you ask the questions, you get the information, and maybe you have the answers already, but you want to get it down on paper. You want to get an official response, and then
we can speak. Because somebody could say, if you look at OKU, why should the new hospital have fewer beds than the old hospital? Because our population is aging. That, in a sense, somebody could view it as who was consulted. The people in the trenches weren't necessarily consulted at the beginning.
So it speaks to another, again, sorry for cutting off, but it speaks to across the board.
It's a chronic issue.
Our government, regardless of which administration, does not consult as much as they think that they're consulting. Because if you, like you said, if you're closing down one hospital and replacing it with another,
with an aging population,
you expect there to be more beds, not less beds.
Exactly.
And that is a span of several administrations, not just one.
The new unit, we managed to get 12 machines in there, but it was designed officially for 8. So we're moving from a VH with 11 to an 8. So, I mean, there's so many, and obviously that was, at some point during the whole process, lack of consultation. So that needs to change. It's a cultural thing, and it needs to change. If there were adequate consultation, I would think, because of course when the problem was realized, because I was already here, and I got here in 2013, when they realized, it was after the fact that, oh my goodness, we have to find a way to at least have the 11 that we had, because who's going to send the patients home?
So it is a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing that needs to change.
I think a lot of the times we think we're consulting, but we're not consulting. Because we're talking, we think we're consulting, but we're not. And because persons are acquiescing, we think that there's consensus, but there
isn't. So the advice, again, coming out of this morning's forum, it needs to come from, in a sense, the bottom up. We need to be part of the process. And that's why
we need to have the nationalist view. We need to do what is best for everybody.
For the country,
That is one of the things that came out of our forum this morning.
It really was a fantastic
if everybody thinks, okay, what is best for the country, no matter who is in power, no matter which people are part of an organization, then you know I'm going forward with this mandate. You're looking out for the interests of the people. Yes.
What else is
So,
there?
like I said, we're not disagreeing with him that we do have to guide the policymakers, but we're coming into a particular situation. This is what it is. I don't have the facts because there's so many rumors out there, and I, for one, have learned to not, before I used to believe where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
I've heard enough things about me to know, no, where there's smoke, there isn't necessarily fire at all. So we can't be peddling. We're a professional organization. We can't be peddling in rumors and innuendo. So we're going to the people who know to get the facts and to say this is where we at, this is what we need, because at the end of the day, as Dr. Moplesi said in the beginning, we need to look out for the well-being of our members as well. So they need to have a safe working environment to work in, a proper working environment, not a stuffed up emergency room with so many patients, because you had a complaints, patients sitting in chairs, and it's simply, we have a small emergency room at Victoria Hospital.
Let me ask you something, both doctors. The OKEU hospital is a huge facility.
Yes.
What is the space used for if we're talking less beds, if we're talking smaller units? What is the space used for? How is it allocated? How is it apportioned?
Generally, a lot of the departments actually got bigger. So while the bed space on the wards might be smaller, like we said, the emergency room is bigger, the physiotherapy room was bigger. The dialysis
unit is
a lot
bigger. So there's a lot of space, but also it's a standards issue as well.
Yes.
So if you look at, so there are departments that get fewer beds, like internal medicine, which probably is a department which takes up the most beds at Victoria Hospital because of our diabetics and our hypertensives and the NCDs again. So you find normally there'll be patients with internal medicine pathologies on all the wards in the hospital, but they in a sense have fewer. But gynae has more beds, surgery also has more beds, as you said, more day surgery, more operating rooms and all of that. But there's a standard, a much bigger
currently
ICU.
we have a 3-bed
ICU, which is inadequate.
So what happens is we get 5 patients in ICU, and that ends up overflowing to the surgeries, and that causes a huge backlog.
Right now at OKEU.
Right, at
VH. That's what happens.
Yeah, because I meant to ask about that, because
so that's
when you
why
have an
sometimes
emergency where you have a massive accident or whatever, I understood that your what's the phrase that I'm looking for, where you have your emergency capacity is like 3 beds.
Yes.
So sometimes has to flow over, and
so
she
it
works in
flows over.
anesthesia.
So I've worked in that department, I know, and what happens is we have to put off elective surgeries because we have these people we need to save their lives.
Yes.
We have them on the machines.
What is the size of your emergency
the ICU is a 3-bed ICU.
The ICU currently
at OKEU.
It's a 6-bed.
It's a 6-bed at OKEU.
Okay,
double
so
the capacity.
you've doubled.
The
Is that
capacity.
sufficient?
More, I think when we are at our maximum in terms of ICU, for now at VH, we tend to be at 6 when one operating theater, because you can't shut down both operating theaters. When one operating theater is shut down because patients need to be on life support, those machines need to be used. So we may find in the not too distant future that it may not be adequate, but it's double what we have now. And I said the bed spaces, so the ward spaces, when we eventually move to OKU, you'll realize it's a lot larger, a lot more spacious. But it's sort of like you see on TV. For example, each bed is connected to several things, your call button for the nurse. So you can't put the beds closer together. And I think for accreditation and standards purposes, that cannot happen.
Is OKEU accredited?
Certainly that is in the process. So we can't move without all of that being done.
So that would be a sticking point as well.
Exactly. So
is
process
VH accredited?
VH has certain accreditation, but there are things that need to be improved. The answer to that, I would leave that to an executive director in terms of where we are in terms of accreditation.
No, because I'm asking
but
the
we can
question
do better.
because if we're not yet accredited at OKEU, I can understand why we're not fully moved in. And if
that
we
process needs to be done
if
for
we're
lab.
trying to meet the standards there,
Yes.
that obviously we're not meeting
All of that,
over
we are not.
at VH. Then.
The lab everywhere needs to be revamped in a sense in order to complete the move.
Do you know what the plans are for VH once the move has been made?
The definitive plans, no, I do not know. No,
what would you like to see done at VH?
The initial plan with the past administration had been that it becomes an urban polyclinic, and Cashridge Health Center would have been closed down. Now, what would have happened with Cashridge Health Center, I truly don't know. Could that have worked? I think that potentially could have been a good idea, but what could happen, I don't know. Bottom line, no, because in my understanding, in a sense, and again, that's not definitive word, these are things that we have to find out, is that initially the subacute patients, so the patients who aren't very, very sick, with inadequate bed space may still still have to be at VH in the initial phases, and then more bed space will be created. Remember, the OKU hospital is missing a fifth wing. That in time that will be, but these are answers.
Missing a fifth
Yeah,
wing.
so if you look at the aerial view of the hospital, there's one finger missing in a sense. So there are four other fingers, which is where the wards are. So a fifth one would, of course, increase your bed space and your capacity. So, but I can't answer this question in terms of when that will happen and that kind. These are the policymakers that we need to speak with them.
Do you think that, considering the issues that abound at VH currently, that the best move would be to turn it into an urban polyclinic?
The infrastructural issues and all
Yeah,
of
because
that.
of all the mold issues and everything.
Absolutely. So that's a very valid question, because I said part of the reason we absolutely, nurses home, which is where we were, is mold infested. So for the most part, everything has moved out of there. There were pictures making the rounds on social media some time ago with the roof caving in on the maternity ward, and that actually is the newest, most sturdy ward. So the roof there is not exactly. So this is where we're at. So all these things have to be taken into consideration with the architects. But I mean, we work there. We know what happens.
Wouldn't it be just better to just, once VH is transitioned to OKU, to raise VH, I mean raise it down to the ground
Get rid
and
of it
rebuild?
and-
Because, I mean, can you really
Yes.
repurpose something that really isn't working?
So that is a serious consideration, because look at all the things that have happened.
We've run out of
Even-
time. We've run out of time. Final words from you guys. And I'm just going to say that before final words from you, I'm going to have you guys back here. I know I'm going to have you guys back here after you've had your meeting, because I think, although I was very stern with the caller, I think he has a very valid point.
Absolutely.
You need to know what's happening, and you
Yes.
need to report back to us what has been happening. I just don't agree with the methods that he's
Yes.
purporting.
Yeah.
I don't think you've got to rush in there like a bull in a china shop
Yeah.
and then just go in and you have no answers, and very well they could be telling you, here are, and then this is what you're going to be able to hold them accountable for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Final words from you guys.
I just want to say thank you, Laura, for having us on the show. I was very grateful for this opportunity for us to show you the brand new face of the SLMDA and our goals for the future.
Yeah. And I'm with Monique on that. Like I said, we are here, we're ready to work, we're ready to relate in a different way, in a sense that has been missing, I think, from us as a St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association in terms of our relationship with the general public. So we certainly want to get out there more and do what we train to do, in a sense, but do it in a more holistic way and get to the people that we are tasked with caring for, essentially.
Awesome. Again, I want to add my voice to the doctors here, to the nurses. Happy Nurses Week.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that you guys are not here instead
Yes.
of them, the doctors, because you really should be.
You should have some midwives soon, though.
Yes, but we will be having some midwives soon, and I can't wait, because, oh my gosh, I want to talk to the midwives about birth after 40. and I also, and I'm going to hold you guys, I'm going to use you as a resource. I want to have a urologist here. I think a lot of people need to hear from, I didn't even know we had urologists on.
Dr. Daniel, Dr. Bradford?
Yeah. So we're going to have, these are some of the doctors that we hope that are going to, or the medical professionals that we hope are going to come through in the coming weeks.
We'll get our people to talk.
Yes. I think
Get
it's
us
very
out
important.
there.
Yes.
I think since I started doing kidney shows, I think we are more aware
I think
of
so.
what's going on. I'm constantly growing in that vein, and as you know, I mean, my best friend is a patient, and I really need, just not for me, but for other persons. I mean, I have a history of diabetes in my family, and that's a potential cause for concern.
Yeah.
I also have hypertension in my family, and a lot of us, we have this, is either diabetes or hypertension or both,
Yeah.
which is even doubly worrying. So I'm trying my best to have as many of you guys, the medical
Absolutely.
professionals, come through to educate us, because education is key. I did not know that you could go in and that there were treatments or whatever, and
Absolutely.
fear is more crippling, I think, sometimes than illness itself. So very, very important. Now, before we go off, I meant to give you some more information. I'm not sure if Junior has it, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Curves with Confidence. That is going to be on Saturday, May 11th, and I'm doing this primarily because I promised that they were going to be coming through, and it didn't happen. So it's going to be on Saturday, May 11th at the Mon Cobaril in Soufrière. It starts from 7 p.m. and tickets cost $50. and $60 at the door. So it's important to get your tickets beforehand. Don't wait till you get there, because you're going to have to pay that $10 extra. And I know for me, every $10 counts. Yeah, every $10 counts. So it's $50 for the tickets. The show starts from 7:30 p.m. emceed by Donnaville. If you know Donnaville, oh my gosh, it's going to be a riot. Buster Sounds is going to provide the sound. Lyrics Master. And one of my favorite soca artists, Dale, is going to be the guest artist for the night. So that's awesome. And it's being put on by the Alexander Family Foundation and Events. And let me tell you something, these young people are doing amazing things, amazing things. One of the reasons I really, really support, and every year I support Miss Curves with Confidence, is because beauty does not just come in one package. It comes in so many different packages, and some of us are curvier than others. And I'm not saying fatter, I'm saying curvier, because we have some lovely curvy ladies, and unfortunately, because of body shaming and a lot of other issues, we don't have as much confidence as our slimmer counterparts, as our thinner, slimmer counterparts. I'm not going to use the descriptive term that I was going to use, because that could be discriminating, and we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to promote a more wholesome view of everybody. So no body shaming, and I want you to come out and support the Alexander Family Foundation and Events, because what they're doing is tremendous. I know a lot of ladies have passed through this event, this pageant, and they are better for it. Last year there was a young lady I didn't think at all was going to make it. I thought she would just melt, and she performed so credibly. Her confidence level, and that's the important thing to underscore, her confidence level is through the roof. One of the ladies who participated last year, I think she was a second or third runner-up at this pageant, represented St. Lucia in a regional pageant to do with plus-size ladies, curvy ladies, and she won. And she was an alumni of this pageant. So it's very, very important. Congratulations again, Annabelle. I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to congratulate you, Annabelle, but fantastic job, good for you. Thank you for bringing home that crown. But ladies, just to tell you, you need to come out, and men too, come out. It is awesome. It is a fun-filled night. And yeah, come out to support Miss Curves with Confidence 2019. On that note, I have to leave you. I have to say goodbye, but see you next week when we have yet another guest bringing more information to light, where this platform becomes the platform where your stories become our stories. Until next week, adieu.